What is up, everyone? Welcome to another week of Josh's NFC West breakdowns, and the San Francisco 49ers come away from Cleveland with what is, in my opinion, a very impressive win. The road team on a short week, 10 a.m. start for the 49ers in the elements versus an elite D-line. Shanahan finally gets a win against a Jim Schwartz defense. Brock Purdy responds after last week, and the 49ers get their first victory in Cleveland since 1984, if you can believe that, all while heading into their bye, still in contention for the NFC West championship and possibly beyond, but we'll talk about that later. For now, we let the film tell us what we're seeing, so let's get right into it. Now, I stopped it right here on the opening kickoff of the first quarter, something we don't usually do on this channel, and it's unusual to see the 49ers take the ball to start the game. Coach Shanahan did this because this was a very windy game in Cleveland, and by choosing to start with the ball, it means he gets to choose which direction to kick off in the second half, meaning they can, in effect, choose to go with the wind in the fourth quarter of what could be a tight defensive game. A very shrewd decision by Kyle Shanahan right off the bat. Kyle Shanahan is having a great year, and on the first play of the game, we see another shrewd decision by Kyle Shanahan. You know, both teams desperately know that they want to run the ball in this game. The wind conditions are going to prevent a lot of passing, so both teams want to run the ball, and both teams desperately want to stop the run. Well, Kyle Shanahan wants to run the ball, but he doesn't want Cleveland to try to stop his running game. So what does he do? He tries to get them to back off by calling a fake run on the first play of the game. San Francisco is going to fake this ball to Christian McCaffrey. The defense responds very aggressively. This is pretty understandable given what we just talked about, and this will allow Kyle Juszczyk to sneak downfield for a big gain. Now, before I show you this play, I want to take a look at a very similar play the 49ers ran in 2019, with some key differences to the formation. First and foremost, the quarterback is in the shotgun here. We all know it's a lot easier to pass out of the shotgun formation, so this is probably less convincing as a run fake. Also notice in this case, Kyle Juszczyk is split out in the slot receiver position. Again, less convincing as a run fake, but in this case, Seattle does believe it's a run, and Kyle Juszczyk is still able to get down the field for a big gain. However, due to the conditions that we just discussed in the Cleveland game here, that is less likely to be effective. So here the formation is changed. Brock Purdy is under center, the back is behind him, and Kyle Juszczyk comes across in motion and then goes downfield. And it works. The 49ers start the game with a big play. Don't be fooled, however. Cleveland's defense is one of the best in the NFL, and they would force a punt on the 49ers' first possession, and eventually their offense would be facing a 3rd down and 3. San Francisco would leave 2 safeties on the field, but since the yardage to gain was so short, Jair Brown would drop down. Typical of the way a lot of defenses handle these 3rd down situations, we see a lot of players kind of right around this line to gain. But it does make you wonder, what if somebody does go deep? Well, that's exactly what dangerous receiver Jerry Jeudy does here. Shedeur Sanders has a wide open touchdown, but there's a key factor here, which is on this play, in this direction, Shedeur is throwing into the wind, and it can be very difficult to try to gauge how strong to make your throw. You don't want to underthrow the guy, so sometimes you really put it out there, and as we can see here, he ends up overthrowing him. Very difficult to throw in the wind, but one quarterback I can think of who was pretty good at it was Alex Smith. Take a look at this. I was at a game at Candlestick in 2010 when it was very windy, and Alex Smith had a good day throwing the football in that game.
Smith has completed his last 10, and they've done a good job passing on first down. shot downfield. Vernon Davis caught it. First and goal, San Francisco. A gain of 41.
Well, the wind doesn't seem to be affecting Alex Smith. He's throwing some balls right now.
What a great game that was. In any event, the Cleveland Browns will have to punt back to the San Francisco 49ers, and on a day like this, where the conditions are rough and it's a defensive struggle, special teams become hugely important. One of the three key phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. The 49ers special teams have been killing it this year, and a lot of it is thanks to this guy right here, Sky Moore. Now, it might look like there's several Browns players waiting for him. He doesn't panic. He doesn't try to run away from them. Instead, he gets north and south and runs to his blockers. And look at that. He pops through, and then he makes moves in the open field, and just like that, he is gone. Well, Blake Whiteheart doesn't have the speed, but he's got the angle. Great effort by Whiteheart there to bring him down. Still a 66-yard return from Sky Moore, and the 49ers are in business. Take a look at this. Now this is cool. We see the arrow pointing to the shadow here. Once we roll this forward, you can really see one of the big flags at Cleveland Stadium there just kind of whipping around. Now it is 3rd down and 8 here, and Brock Purdy was great in this game on 3rd down. So we'll talk about that later. But for now, Kyle Shanahan has to figure out what play he's going to call, and he goes to one that the 49ers like to use when they kind of have a big 3rd down situation, kind of down in this area of the red zone. We've taken a look at it a number of times on this channel. It's the Texas route, and this can really make it difficult for a defender like Grant Delpit to know, should he continue going to the outside, take that route away, or should he stay to the inside? Well, in this case, it's a moot point. Jim Schwartz doesn't want Brock Purdy to be great on 3rd down, so he calls a big blitz here, a 6-man blitz, including Delpit. But here, Brock Purdy does the right thing. He throws into the blitz. Oh, and a big hit there to stop Christian McCaffrey just 2 yards short of the end zone. This seems like a foregone conclusion, and here Brock Purdy has Luke Farrell wide open for a touchdown, and oh, by the way, he's throwing with the wind, which does make it easier to throw the football, but not always in the way that you would think. When I roll this forward here, watch how the wind just carries this ball right out of the end zone. It's amazing. Oh my goodness, that is something else. Okay, so back to the drawing board for San Francisco. 3rd down now. And if you're Cleveland, on 3rd down, you're thinking the 49ers, maybe they'll hand it to Christian McCaffrey. Why wouldn't Cleveland line up with, 5 or maybe even 6 down linemen right at the line of scrimmage? Well, San Francisco probably discouraged that with their formation. They have George Kittle in the game, who is an eligible receiver. They have Juwan Jennings in, Demarcus Robinson, and Ricky Pearsall. And remember what we talked about on the first play of the game. This time Brock Purdy is lined up in the shotgun, so this looks like it's going to be a pass on 3rd down. Cleveland lines up with 4 down linemen, and if we consider George Kittle an offensive lineman, well, that gives the 49ers a numbers advantage on that offensive line, 6-4. This gives the 49ers the luxury of using Spencer Burford and Jake Brendel to double team the defensive tackles and then head downfield. And take a look. Those are the blocks that Christian McCaffrey runs behind. Touchdown 49ers, Christian McCaffrey. Absolutely beautiful stuff in the run blocking game against an elite defensive line. San Francisco is 9th in the NFL in red zone percentage, and it's easy to see why with play design like that. So the 49ers take the lead, 7-0. Cleveland would get the ball and go on a long drive, and here they are facing a big 4th down and 1. In fact, take a look at that. It's not very long to go at all. It looks like 4th down and maybe a half yard. I think if Shedeur Sanders just takes this on the quarterback sneak, he probably picks it up. Instead, the Browns make the decision to turn around and hand it off. Perfectly acceptable, but that does mean the play takes a little longer to develop. The offensive line kind of crashes down to the inside. It looks like the Browns are trying to run to the right, but the 49ers are able to penetrate with Malik Mustafa and Jordan Elliott and disrupt the play in the backfield for no gain. I almost wonder if the left guard kind of stumbles here. All right, let's move ahead to the second quarter. Cleveland has the ball back and they are driving, and this time they are with the wind. They have the ball at the 31-yard line, so from here it would be about a 48-yard field goal. Now, these windy conditions can make kicks unpredictable, but you would still rather be going with the wind than against it. So just keep that in mind for a moment here. We're going to be taking a look at these two players here. We see that both of them are moving at the same time, meaning they both have to get set for at least 1 second before the football is snapped. Now, the officials ruled that Jerry Jeudy was not set before the snap of the football, and we see the flag come out for a penalty. That's a bit of a tough call, but it is similar to one that went against the 49ers just recently here. So it makes me wonder if this is something that officials are looking at league-wide. Okay, he stopped at the 28, so from there it would be about a 45-yard field goal, and a lot of coaches would decline that penalty, force that kicker to make a difficult kick in windy conditions. But here Shanahan makes what I think is another really shrewd coaching decision. He realizes that if he takes the penalty, the Browns back up to the 36-yard line, meaning if they don't gain at least 8 yards to get back to the 28, this is going to be a win for the 49ers. Either way, I feel like some analytics probably went into this, but again, a move I really liked from Kyle Shanahan, and it would pan out. Watch this. And it's Clelin Ferrell who brings Shedeur Sanders down. Ferrell kind of stepping up as the 49ers have struggled with the depletion of their defensive line this season. Take a look at the left guard here. You know, they say you've got to keep your head on a swivel in the NFL. He is completely looking in the other direction, and Ferrell comes in and just blasts him and then pursues to the quarterback. A great pass rush by Clelin Ferrell. So Cleveland gets nothing on the drive. They have to punt back to San Francisco. They can't even attempt a field goal. And you could be saying, now wait a second, Josh, you're siding with Shanahan because the play ended up working out. What if the Browns had, gained a bunch of yardage and it scored? Well, I think the decision was driven by data. It was driven by knowledge of the wind conditions and the game conditions. And I respect the process that went into the decision making by Kyle Shanahan. And so I just agree with the call. And let me show you an example of another call Shanahan made where it didn't necessarily work out in the 49ers' favor, but I still think it was the right call. Here, George Kittle is stopped about 4 yards shy of the line to gain. Now, it's tempting to say you're in plus territory. Why not just go for it on 4th and 4, keep it rolling? Of course, these conditions also make it harder to pick up that 4th and 4. So Shanahan makes the call to punt the football in plus territory, force that rookie quarterback for Cleveland to drive 90 yards against your defense. Well, wouldn't you know it, Cleveland puts together a heck of a drive and moves the football down the field, but I still think Shanahan made the right decision in that instance. Part of the problem is there were a lot of plays like this where San Francisco would appear to have the running back stopped only for the back to fight and break loose and gain more yardage on the play. This time for a first down, San Francisco had a hard time tackling on this drive. In fact, Cleveland ran the ball 9 consecutive times on this drive. So here on the 10th play, when Shedeur Sanders drops back to pass, Shanahan said after the game he thought it caught the 49ers by surprise. Well, I'm looking at this. I see a pass rush. I see the defensive backs gaining depth. So I don't think the fact that the play itself was a pass caught them by surprise, but we do see some missed assignments here. The 49ers have been dealing with injuries at the linebacker position, and here Tatum Bethune and Curtis Robinson just don't get this quite right. I would think after carrying Harold Fannin through the zone, Bethune is supposed to drop down. handing Fannin off to Curtis Robinson. Neither one of them pick him up, and Shedeur Sanders spots the mistake immediately. And look, I get it. It's a big, heavy fullback with a full head of steam, but there's two defenders there, and neither one of them can get him to the ground. Touchdown, Cleveland. And here we see what is a rare mistake by the 49ers special teams, lining up with 12 players on defense. This would be a penalty and would give the Cleveland the option, if they want to, of going for 2 with the ball at the 1-yard line instead of the 2-yard line. And Cleveland says, okay, we'll take the deal. Direct snap to the spectacular rookie Quinshon Judkins, and there it is. He crosses the plane of the goal line, so Cleveland's 2-point try is successful, and they take the lead 8-7. Now, this happened with just about 39 seconds left to go in the first half, and the Browns, remember, get the ball to start the second half. So some of us watching at home were starting to feel a little antsy, starting to feel like, okay, the 49ers better get some points on this drive. You know, so far it's been a low-scoring defensive struggle. I get it, but this felt like kind of a critical drive in the game, and the 49ers stepped up. Ricky Pearsall cuts to the inside. The defender has to respect that move, and when he does, Pearsall hits him with the double move. Now, the thing about a double move is it does take longer for that route to develop, so here the 49ers leave Christian McCaffrey in to help with pass protection, but the protection from the O-line is solid. McCaffrey has nothing to do. You, sir, are dismissed. And look at the placement of this football. Outstanding. A difficult throw into the wind, but Brock Purdy is executing on this drive, and this time it's Jauan Jennings who utilizes the double move. First going to the outside and then coming back to the inside this time. There's still 15 seconds left, and the 49ers are moving steadily towards field goal range. So here Jim Schwartz makes an interesting decision. He only leaves one safety back deep, and the rest of the Browns set up at the line to gain almost as if it's third down. But remember, it's only first down here. They just simply don't believe that Brock Purdy is going to torch them with a 50-yard bomb for a touchdown in these windy conditions. And they're right, sort of. Nevertheless, George Kittle just blows right by the defense who sits up on the route. And what do you need to throw the ball deep? Time. The ball does indeed hang up in the wind. George Kittle makes a great adjustment to the football. Okay, and then we see him on the ground. He has secured the catch going to the ground, and he is being contacted by the defender. He has satisfied all the requirements of making a catch, so even though the defender strips the ball out afterwards, the officials correctly ruled that Kittle makes the catch on the play, and then, with the clock ticking down, Kittle has the wherewithal to get up and immediately call for a timeout. The video cuts off here, but we'll get back to that momentarily. Once again, the 49ers leave Christian McCaffrey in to help with pass protection, and this time he has something to do. You know, the all-pro running back and / wide receiver doesn't mind getting his hands dirty in the pass protection game. He hits Cam Thomas and then goes out for a pass route. Catch, okay, takes it to the ground. Officials rule it a couch. Then he gets up and he calls a timeout. We don't have it shown here, but he immediately calls for the timeout. On the telecast, it looked like this happened with about 6 seconds left. The officials ruled he did it at 4 seconds. They wouldn't put any time back on. So here Shanahan makes another decision, and again, it's another one I wholeheartedly agree with. He just says, let's just kick the field goal right here. No sense risking anything right before the end of the half. Remember, the Browns get the ball to start the second half, so the most important thing on this drive was points, not necessarily a touchdown. Score some points, go into the half with momentum, force Shedeur Sanders to play from behind. And it's a chip shot field goal, but Matt Gay is kicking into the wind. The kick is up and it does doink off, but goes in. So all's well that ends well. Wow, what a way to enter the half for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, folks, it takes a long time to make a video like this. If you could give me just 10 seconds and hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. And we have a Patreon page. And as part of that, we have perks. One of those perks is a favorite play bonus. So this week's favorite play is brought to you by Tactics, aka Jeff. He requested that we take a look at former 49er players like Dre Greenlaw. So we're going to take a look at this play by Dre Greenlaw from last night's game on Sunday Night Football. We're going to spend 30 seconds taking a quick look at this, and then we'll be right back to the 49ers and the Browns. Here we go. The Denver Broncos are 10-2 with a 9-game winning streak. They have the best record in the NFL, and they are doing it with defense. Here, Chris Rodriguez is going to run the wheel route. Why would that route be helpful in this situation? Well, it looks like he's going towards the flat, towards the line to gain the first down. If the defender sits up, he will be burned pretty badly by the wheel route for a long touchdown. Of course, that's not just any defender, that's Dre Greenlaw, and he is all over this route. With Mariota in trouble, he flicks this ball out to the sideline, and it is intercepted by Dre Greenlaw, who then puts out a nice return for the Denver Broncos, getting him some nice field position as well. Let's go back to the snap. When I saw this play live, I thought surely Mariota must just be trying to throw this ball out of bounds, but from this angle we can see he was throwing it right to Rodriguez. Dre Greenlaw is way too good of a defender to try something like that against, and he makes the Commanders pay. All right, let's get back to the third quarter of 49ers at Browns. Cleveland gets the ball to start the second half. They can't do anything with it. They punt back to the 49ers, and this defensive grind of a game would continue. But one thing Brock Purdy was really good at was not giving up sacks to Myles Garrett. No doubt wanting to get their offense going a little bit, Shanahan calls one of San Francisco's favorite plays, faking the run to one side and sneaking a receiver out to the other side. In order to sell the fake, Colton McKivitz stays to the inside. The 49ers intentionally leave the dangerous Myles Garrett alone on the edge. They are hoping he will pursue to the fake run play. Well, he doesn't. Somehow Purdy gets this ball off and is able to throw it away out of bounds, and afterwards you can see Garrett turn towards Brock Purdy. The two apparently had a brief conversation after this play. Garrett said, "Man, why did you have to throw it?" Myles Garrett closing in on the NFL's all-time sack record. So Cleveland gets the ball again, facing a big 4th down and 1, and again they are going for it. But take a look at this formation. That's Shedeur Sanders lined up in the running back position, with the fullback Harold Fannin lined up under center. An interesting idea to try to run the quarterback sneak with a fullback. Unfortunately, fullbacks and tight ends, which is Fannin's natural position, aren't really used to taking the snap from under center. From this angle, we've got a great shot right down the pike from the cameraman here of Harold Fannin fumbling this snap. Obviously, there is no gain on the play, and the 49ers take over on downs. Now faced with having to defend a short field, we see another mistake by the Cleveland Browns. This time, 2 defenders going with Brian Robinson Jr. and nobody going with George Kittle. A little bit of a high pass, but remember Brock Purdy is throwing into the wind here, and the 49ers once again are knocking at the door. To punch this thing in, Shanahan calls an all-time classic. They fake the handoff to Christian McCaffrey, and when the defense collapses in on the fake, Brock Purdy takes it himself to the front side. And then he does the Dougie, and I could swear I've seen this play somewhere before. Let me think. Yes, that's right. 2002 49ers, the Giants in the playoffs. The lovely Mrs. Putnam and I weren't even married yet, but I had her over along with a few other people to watch this game on TV. And yeah, it's the same play. The 49ers fake the handoff, and when the defensive end collapses in on the fake, Jeff Garcia this time takes it himself to the front side. One of the most exciting playoff games in NFL history, but Garcia doesn't do the Dougie. Unfortunately, that song wouldn't come out for about another 10 years afterwards, so let's return to 49ers Cleveland in modern times, and yeah, you can see how hard that play is to defend, and perhaps Brock Purdy can teach us all how to Dougie. Alright, well that's enough of that nonsense. Once again, I'm going to show you a mistake on special teams by the Browns. Here's the football. Now, if the ball goes into the end zone, the Browns get it at the 35-yard line. If the ball goes out of bounds, they get it at the 40-yard line, so it's in Cleveland's interest to let this ball bounce here. Instead, the returner catches it and then steps out of bounds at the 6. Now faced with horrible field position, Cleveland can't really do anything with the football, and once again, they punt back to San Francisco. We're in the fourth quarter now, and this time Myles Garrett finally gets home to Brock Purdy, sack number 19 on the season, if you can believe that. 3 and a handshake away from setting the NFL's all-time sack record. And here's how he did it. Instead of taking the long way around, you can see that the 49ers have Trent Williams and George Kittle over there to help block Myles Garrett. A good idea. He sees that and says, fine, I'll just go to the inside. And just think about that sheer talent as a pass rusher to be able to beat Trent Williams and George Kittle trying to pass protect on the same play. Absolutely unbelievable. So the 49ers would punt back to the Cleveland Browns, but once again, it's the 49ers with the better special teams in this game. Muff, and it is recovered by Darrell Luter. With the 49ers up 17-8 after their last touchdown, it is imperative that Cleveland keep San Francisco out of the end zone here. So when Jawan Jennings puts his foot in the ground, he's hoping to use the double move on the corner. But Tyson Campbell holds his ground. He's playing an outside technique. He's willing to give up the inside, so it is going to be there, but this ball has to be right on the money, and Brock Purdy delivers the football. I just showed you Myles Garrett against George Kittle and Trent Williams. Here he is against Christian McCaffrey and Colton McKivitz. And again, Christian McCaffrey not afraid to get his hands dirty in the pass protection game. Cleveland desperately needs points now, but just take a look at the wind, not only whipping this flag around, but whipping the pole around as well. Wow. Cleveland wanted to run the ball, but they've got no more time for that now, so the pass rush of the 49ers is able to tee off on Shedeur. Here we see Bryce Huff getting held. The flag would come out. Not sure if it was that or for Alfred Collins getting tackled on the play, but Shedeur's cleats kind of get caught in the turf. He goes down awkwardly here and then stays down on the ground. He would have to leave this game for a couple of plays. Dillon Gabriel would come in, but to his credit, Shedeur would show a lot of toughness and return to this football game. Unfortunately, between the penalty and everything else, here Cleveland is facing a 4th down and 26, and there would be no Donovan McNabb to Freddie Mitchell connection here. As is often the case, when you have to go that far down the field, the pass rush oftentimes does get home, and here Keion White welcomes the young rookie to the NFL. Okay, and right here is when Sanders can see Keion White coming at him. He tries to move, but just watch how quickly Keion White closes. Boom, in the blink of an eye. That's how fast these guys are in the NFL. The 49ers would tack on an insurance score, I guess they're calling it these days, and I wanted to show you guys this play because there was a lot made last week of Brock Purdy's arm strength. Here, he does have a potential shot to the end zone, but he's really got to rifle this football in. And, you know, again, it's windy, I understand that, but this ball does kind of die on the vine and float as it floats through the air. Should the 49ers be worried about that? I don't think so. Remember, he's still dealing with that turf toe. Give it a full off season to rehab that and work on his arm strength, and I think Brock Purdy will be back to normal next season. Can't say enough about Matt Gay filling in for Eddie Pinheiro, kicking in extremely difficult conditions. He made every kick for the 49ers on this day. Final topic of discussion here. What is my evaluation of Shedeur Sanders? Well, I think that he is really raw. He definitely has tremendous talent. He shows a lot of toughness. The game isn't too big for him. What he needs, in my opinion, is experience. Here, it's 4th down and forever. He's got to chuck this thing to either this receiver or this receiver. Yes, I understand there are defenders right there ready to make a play on the ball, but it's 4th down and you're behind big time on the scoreboard. You don't have a choice. Instead, Shedeur slides and waits for the next down, but there is no 5th down. He turns the football over on downs. This will be a learning experience for the young Shedeur Sanders. In 1946, there was a competing league to the NFL, the AAFC, the All-American Football Conference. That league died, but 3 of those teams did survive and would merge with the National Football League. The Colts, and the other 2 teams, the Cleveland Browns and the San Francisco 49ers. So this game is always interesting to me. I had a lot of fun breaking this one down. All right, what a huge, important win for the San Francisco 49ers. Very impressive considering the elements and the fact that they were on the road on a short week and all the other factors that I talked about at the top of this video. And one of the things I mentioned was Brock Purdy bouncing back after a tough game against Carolina last week. And we took a hard look at that on this channel, and I think we assessed those interceptions, pretty honestly, if you want to go back and take a look. And the Carolina defense, looks pretty good. They looked pretty good against Matt Stafford this week as well, also forcing 3 turnovers from Stafford. So the Carolina D has to get some credit there. And Brock Purdy, in this game against the Cleveland Browns, we've talked about the fact that it was windy. Neither quarterback could really throw the ball too much in this game. But you know what he didn't do was he didn't throw an interception. He didn't fumble the football. He took care of the ball. Only completed just over 50% of his passes. Did throw an important touchdown pass. Ran for a touchdown. And I want to thank Guy Haberman for pointing this out. He was 8 for 11 on 3rd downs. That is impressive. And 7 of those went for a 1st down. The 8th went for a touchdown. So that is really outstanding stuff from Brock Purdy in this game. I expect after the bye week in better weather conditions in San Francisco, his completion percentage will be a little bit higher, but so far so good from the San Francisco 49ers. All right, if you have taken the time to sign up for the Patreon page, I want to thank you. Your support allows me to take the time to do these videos right, to give you the quality that you deserve. You humble me, you honor me from the bottom of my heart, guys. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're an essential part of this team. I could not do this channel without you. Thank you very much. Okay, what's next for the San Francisco 49ers? Well, they are heading into a much needed bye, a late season bye, but after that, they only have 4 games left to finish the season. They are home against the Tennessee Titans. They're at the Indianapolis Colts on Monday Night Football. They're home against the Chicago Bears, and then they finish out the season again at home against the Seattle Seahawks. All winnable games for the San Francisco 49ers. And look, I know it's probably too early to be talking about something like this, and in 5 weeks, maybe this statement will be silly. But I am going to say, this is going to blow your mind a little bit. If LA and Green Bay each lose 1 more game and the 49ers win out, San Francisco would be the #1 seed in the NFC, if you can believe that. So the 49ers have a realistic opportunity here to A, win the division championship, and B, possibly even get a top seed in the NFC. Now, we don't know what's going to happen there. There's a lot of football left to be played. Like Coach Mike Shanahan used to say, after Thanksgiving is when football season really starts. So, we'll just have to wait and see. And the 49ers get that bye next week, so we'll be waiting a little bit of extra time. We're going to put Josh's NFC West breakdowns on hiatus until that point. Once they get back, we'll break down the game against the Tennessee Titans. So I don't know what's going to happen until then. We look out for some bonus content on the Patreon page probably. you know we are going to be here to break down the film, and I will see you guys then.